so that we can pop it onto YouTube so that you can show this to anybody who you think may benefit. Cameras on or off, I don't mind. It's evening time. We're all kind of in slight relaxation mode. So do feel free to turn your camera off, but please do keep yourselves on mute at all times, unless you're contributing to the Q&A at the end, so that I don't hear any confidential household or setting conversations. Any questions, please do feel free to type them into the chat box as we go. I won't read them live, but again, once we've finished the teaching portion of the webinar, we can go back and review. And if you're anything like me and you think, I'm not going to remember this by the end of the webinar, type them in as you go. I'll review them at the end. Come and go as you need. Certainly I have children at home. You may do too. They come first. If you need anything, please do go and attend to that. You will have the slides emailed to you when we have received your feedback form, so you don't have to take copious notes. It's absolutely fine. You'll get everything, and you can also use the YouTube recording along with that. So these lovely fully funded webinars are brought to you by your Reach Out Early Years Stronger Practice Hub team, and they are Damon, who has introduced himself already, Victoria, Jess and Lisa, and Damon and Lisa have both joined us tonight, so thank you for that. Stronger Practice Hubs originally were devised as part of the COVID-19 recovery catch-up. That's no longer the case, but we are very happy that our funding was extended back in March for another year, because actually the benefits of reaching out to the early years professionals in the area were really shown to be really good. So there are 18 Stronger Practice Hubs across the UK, and ours is based at the Barn Nursery School in Greensted Green. One thing that is common to all of you is the Early Evidence Store, the Early Years Evidence Store, which is a web-based resource where you can go and check the current evidence for all the things you're doing, not just speech and language, but all across the early years foundation stage. So numeracy, play, English as an additional language, all of those things. So particularly if you're a new practitioner, this is really helpful to get that initial, burst of knowledge, but also for a longer term practitioner, because I know that whenever we are, in a job for a long time, sometimes we do things just because it's the way we've always done it. And it's really good to make sure that you are actually doing things that are backed up by the current evidence. Bespoke support as well can also be offered by the hub. So please do, if you have a little look at the newsletter and you think, oh, do you know what, there's nothing here that quite fits what I need, do please talk to the hub, reach out to them and see if there's something that they can offer for you. Here are the QR codes to join us on Instagram and other socials, so that, again, you can keep up to date with all the things that are going on around. Okay. So on to PDA. And I'm going to explain it all, but I stumbled across this video online a few weeks ago and just went, yep. So Connor M. Green, you can see down here, is a really good social media account to follow if you're interested in neurodiversity and ADHD. But let's see how he portrays having life with a PDA child.
Put your hands up. No. What? I said no. Why not? I don't want to. But I've got a gun. I don't care. Doesn't make any sense. Too bad.
And I just love that, because that very much is like having a PDA child. And we're going to learn a little bit more now about why this is really relevant. So, what does PDA stand for? Pathological demand avoidance, or as we are now respinning, pervasive drive for autonomy. So you will see most times PDA written as pathological demand avoidance, but that to us as neuro-affirming therapists and professionals doesn't feel like the kindest name or the kindest acronym. Pervasive drive for autonomy is a lot kinder and a lot more descriptive and you're going to find out why. So what is PDA? PDA is a profile of autism, okay? Children and adults with PDA have an overwhelming need to be in control. And this results in resistance and avoidance to everyday demands. And we're going to talk in a minute about what constitutes a demand, because it's a lot more intricate than you may think. PDA individuals often display a fight, flight, or freeze response when they are hit with a demand. And they sometimes use social strategies to avoid demands or regain control of a situation. They have intense focus on people. Now, that can be intense love or intense hate. And how we support PDA individuals is by building trust, giving autonomy where we can, flexible approaches, collaboration, and lowering demands. Now, that may sound like a lot, but I'm going to break this down for you so you understand the basis of it and what you can do to help. So let's think about demands and demand avoidance. All of us avoid things that are expected of us sometimes, things like washing up, putting away the laundry. I don't know if you've seen that thing, 1 day to wash, 1 day to dry, 10 business days to put it away. That's certainly me. Talking to someone when we're not in the mood. So I might be in the playground and I might be looking at my phone because I'm just not in the mood to talk today. That's a demand avoidance. All those bigger things like, sorting out the loft or something like that. So we all avoid some demands. Demand avoidance is different. So demand avoidance is a persistent and marked resistance to demands of everyday life. This may include essential demands like bodily demands like eating and sleeping, as well as the more common demands such as going to school and work. So we're going to look at the type of demands, and a lot of people find this like a bit of a light bulb moment actually. So you can have direct demands, and I think these are the ones that we think about when we think about our children who we either know have PDA or who we suspect to have PDA. So your direct demands like brush your teeth, put your coat on, or like the adult equivalent, file your self-assessment forms, that kind of thing. These demands where somebody is asking you to do a thing. This is where it gets interesting. Indirect or implied demands. When somebody puts a plate of food in front of you, it is implied that you are going to eat this plate of food. When somebody puts a picture in front of you, like a line drawing and some felt tip pens, a child perceives the expectation that this picture needs to be coloured in. Whether or not you say colour in this picture, there is an implicit or an indirect expectation that that is what's going to happen. We don't have to speak the demand for it to be a demand. Then we have our kind of internal body demands and our body signals such as hunger and thirst and toileting. So actually during the day we are subjected to a lot of demands and not just the direct ones. So what type of resistance might we see from a child or an individual that has a PDA profile of autism? When hit with a demand, a PDA may just make an excuse. And it may be a plain excuse like I'm busy, not now, don't want to. And it could become quite fanciful, quite fantastical. I can't now because I'm a fish and fish don't have legs, so I can't come to the table. And they can't enter a sort of fantasy excuse just to divert away from that demand. It may be a straight refusal, so saying no or physically resisting or refusing. The individual may create a distraction or a diversion. Now, this can either be sort of positively framed, like paying you a compliment, like, oh, your hair looks really nice today. I like your dress. Or creating a situation that needs some kind of immediate attention, like spilling something or making some kind of crazy noise so that the conversation is just too tricky to continue with. There may be a passive response or a withdrawal response. So the child may curl into a ball, they may become floppy, they might lie down, they may run away, or again, resort to that kind of fantasy play sequence. And again, thinking about my own neurodivergent children, I used to take my eldest to tumble tots, and there used to be circle time at the start and then they would do a song and a dance, and she would very quietly curl into the fetal position until the song and the dance was finished, and then just get up again and carry on. So that demand was a step too far for her, but she just curled into the fetal position, and that was her sort of passive withdrawal to that demand. It doesn't always manifest as a big kind of no response. The last is usually a last resort, so aggression, and that's if anxiety, because PDA is an anxiety-based condition, and if that anxiety becomes overwhelming and we haven't found another way to kind of deflect this demand, we may hit, kick, throw, and this is often where the child has kind of become out of control, and the situation needs to be managed in a different way. Now, we talk about these, as I said at the start, in terms of fight, flight, freeze, flop, and fawn. And what this means is fight is that actively attacking and defending, that anger. Flight is your kind of escape. Freeze is sort of stopping everything. Flop will be your kind of physical dead weight response, and fawning is that people pleasing or just complying just to avoid that unknown threat. Now, in the 1980s, this is quite a wordy slide, but go with it. I think it's quite interesting. In the 1980s, Dr. Elizabeth Newsom was the person that highlighted some of the diagnostic descriptors for a PDA profile. And these actually are phrased quite negatively. So the PDA Society, who I'll show you a link for their website later, have given some quite useful everyday examples. So obsessive resistance to everyday demands. A PDA here is written on a daily basis. I can't do things that are expected or routine as a result of my stress response. Demands cause me anxiety. Another diagnostic criteria, using a range of socially manipulative strategies of avoidance. So basically, this PDA has said I often get around demands by changing the subject, distracting people with humour, flattery, avoiding situations where demands come up. I might zone out, become angry. Lability of mood, which basically means extreme mood swings, being impulsive, led by a need to control. Again, it's just experiencing extreme emotions and being impulsive. And obsessive behaviour, often targeted at particular people or their characteristics. One PDA has said, I have safe people to whom I'm very attached and who I do almost everything with. And I have deep interests, often in people or characters, which I invest a lot of energy in. And I think these are a lot more descriptive and a lot more helpful and a lot kinder than words which feel quite loaded, like obsessive resistance and socially manipulative and need to control and obsessive behaviour. I think those, plus the title Pathological Demand Avoidance, do paint this picture of something actually quite big and scary. Whereas really, when you boil it down to, I feel anxious, very anxious, and I'm trying to control the situation, does seem to make it a lot more easy to kind of conceptualize as people who are caring for these children. So the key thing here is PDA is neurological. It's pre-wired. Now, you all know that, well, probably those of you who have been with me for a while know that one of my favorite people to explain neurodivergent conditions is Speech Dude, who is an American speech and language pathologist, speech and language therapist, who has ADHD and works with neurodivergent young people. So I'm going to play you his description, because it's far better than mine could be, about how PDA is wired in the brain. Take a look.
Pathological demand avoidance as seen within autism, part 2, better reframed as pervasive drive for autonomy. Because of that, let's talk about it. There's this tiny little spot in the brain called the amygdala. It's almond shaped and it's within the central nervous system. Its main job is to scan the environment to identify threats and then trigger responses such as fight or flight, which are external behaviors, or internalized behaviors such as fawn, flop, or freeze. Autistic individual with a PDA wired brain has a highly reactive amygdala, always scanning the environment and perceiving threat when there's a lack or loss of autonomy or that feeling of not having control or equality. That goes off. Just like autism, where one is born autistic with the PDA wiring. Parents have reported that there's excessive crying. They've tried to comfort, nurture, breastfeed, and nothing seems to be working. And it's excessive, and it impacts sleeping and it impacts eating. And the opposite can be true too. Infants' nervous system can internalize this and be in a freeze response and seem calm, but it overrides basic needs such as eating. As the child gets older, they're more vulnerable to being traumatized because the world doesn't understand a nervous system disability. So being a PDA profile autistic individual is traumatizing, but trauma does not cause PDA. It's always been wired in the brain. I hope you found that helpful. Follow for part 3.
Okay, so he's quick, but if you want to go back and watch this again on YouTube or find it on his socials, it's worth realizing that basically these children have an overactive amygdala in their brain, which is scanning on overtime for threat and perceiving loss of control as threat. So what we're seeing is a response to threat. You and I may not perceive these demands as threat, but these children do. And so if we imagine how tiring that is, constantly scanning and constantly looking for threat in the environment, it's overwhelming. And that's how we need to reframe our thinking. These children are not behaving badly. These children are perceiving threat and reacting to it. Okay. So who diagnoses PDA? So PDA is not a diagnosis on its own. It is a profile of autism spectrum condition, and it will be noted at an autism assessment. So if you fill out a referral form for PDA, it will not go anywhere because actually you're filling out a referral for the wrong thing. You need to be filling out a referral for autism assessment. If there are PDA traits to your child, by all means include them in the referral, but you will not get a PDA diagnosis on its own. It is a profile of autism, and if the child is noted to meet the criteria, they will be noted as having a PDA profile or demand avoidance traits as part of their autism diagnosis, and that's really important to know. So your key learning point in terms of theory then, children with PDA are driven by the need for autonomy, pervasive demand for autonomy. Any demand, big, small, pleasant, unpleasant, that removes autonomy triggers that fight, flight, freeze response. So we may be saying something to the child that we think is actually really enjoyable and really good fun. But if we frame it as a demand, it doesn't matter. It's a demand, and that causes anxiety. PDAs are not trying to be difficult. They are not trying to be obstructive. The brain is interpreting a threat to them if a demand is made. Their response is subconscious, it's neurological, it's not conscious, and it's not behavioral. And that's why reward charts with these children do not work, because you cannot control a neurological response in the same way that you would go about a pure behavioral difficulty. So what can you do? How can we help these children? First thing to realize and remember is that verbal communication can be really confusing and be really demanding or stressful. Where you can go non-verbal, do. So create safety non-verbally. Be calm and smiling in your facial expression, gentle tone of voice, and calm body language. That's a really good start, is to create safety. The next one is a game changer. Language matters, okay? We're looking for declarative language, not demanding language. So declarative language is where you're sharing observations and expressing your thoughts. And that engages a child's curiosity to get them where you want them to go, rather than making a demand or issuing a command. So we're guiding them, we're not directing them. So I've put some really helpful examples of this on the screen. So instead of get your coat on, we might go, looks cold outside. That's all you're doing. Looks cold outside. I'll let you decide what to do. Okay. Instead of grab a snack, we may go, I'm feeling hungry. I think it's about time for me to have something to eat. I wonder if you are as well. because you're leaving the child the control to make the decision as to whether they wish to partake in a snack with you. Instead of wash your hands, you may make an observation. Oh, your hands look dirty. I know we've just been out in the garden, haven't we? Oh, that's it. Again, you're not placing a demand. You are declaring what you see and letting them take control as to whether they wish to wash their hands. Instead of get your shoes, it could be, oh, wondering where your shoes are. So you can see that by changing that language, there is no demand. There is no explicit demand. So you are lessening the demand on that child. So again, a handy little visual on this. So declarative language, it's comments that observe, things like dog looks hungry, so we know what to do. Those flowers are really colourful. We're trying to use pronouns like me, I, my, or we, let's, us, and ours, not you, yours. Okay, as soon as you put you in there, it becomes a demand. So like, let's go get our bags. We had fun. The teacher's waiting for us. I wonder if your friend likes pretzels. So again, you're never putting the demand on the child. You're focusing it back on you. You're reflecting it back on you or the pair of you as a collaborative. We like words that emphasize uncertainty, possibility, and alternatives. So we like things like maybe we can do this. Might it be a good idea? Whether perhaps we could. Possibly that might be an idea. Sometimes this is nice. I'm not sure whether we could do that now. Maybe a friend wants to go play too. We might go outside later. So it gives options. It's not a demand if there's options and alternatives loaded in it. Cognitive verbs such as I think, I hope, I remember, I forget, they're really useful as well. Those observational words, I notice everybody is ready for our story. Again, it's not sit on the carpet, it's I notice everyone is ready for the story, and you may notice it too, and then you may go and sit down, which is the unspoken part of that. And giving everybody time to think is really, really key. So actually trying to build time. So this can be really, really hard because everything happens at a million miles an hour in life, doesn't it? But it's about trying to maybe put getting our shoes on earlier on in proceedings so that we're not going, come on, get your shoes on, do it now, do it now. And we can build some time for the child to kind of come around in their own time for that. Don't be afraid of silence either. I think sometimes we feel we have to fill a gap with words. We don't. The more words there are, the more overwhelming that will be to the child. So don't be scared of silence. Autonomy and choices is really important. So provide choices wherever you can. So that sense of control and autonomy is really, really important. Just even basics like, hey, I wonder whether you'd like the blue plate or this pink one. Or let's think about doing some craft. Does it feel like a Play-Doh day or a painting day? So again, you're still keeping that in with Play-Doh and painting. So you're not going to have too big a, decision as to what you're going to offer, but the child is feeling in control of what they're going to do. Strewing is something that I discovered as I was researching this, which I thought was great. And it's actually something that I did as a parent without realizing I was doing it. So leaving a variety of activities out and letting the child gravitate to what they want to play. But then on top of that, drop in your expectations around how the child should play with an activity. Encourage however they choose to play. So what you don't want to do is undo your good work of lowering a demand by letting them choose what to play with, by then going, oh yeah, I can see you're lining the cards up. How about we do this instead? Because then you've taken the autonomy away again. So it's a two-step process. Give them the autonomy to choose what they want to do, and then give them the autonomy to play however they wish to play. And again, in a couple of months' time, I think we've got a webinar on autistic play, because I think we have to really lose our expectations on how children play, because actually as soon as we try and put our idea on how a child should play with a toy, it becomes a demand and all your hard work is undone. Presence without expectation. So again, it's about reducing that spoken language, being nearby so the child feels safe, because we know that safety is really important for our PDAs. We know that they need to feel safe and in control. But reduce demands. So wait for the child to come to you, or wait for the child to make eye contact with you. Respond when they initiate, but wait for them to initiate. If they don't initiate, but they're happy playing, that's fine. As soon as you initiate, you're taking away the autonomy and you're putting yourself in control of that situation. I think we think that children need to engage with us all the time for an activity to be successful. It doesn't need to be that way. And actually, all you're going to do if you launch in is take away that autonomy and that safe space that the child was experiencing up to that point. Understand and embrace special interests. So, as we know, children with PDA have a diagnosis of autism spectrum condition. The likelihood is, not always, but the likelihood is they will have some special interests, some deep interests that run, really to the heart of them. And we used to kind of push away from these, but actually the research now says we need to lean into them because they're a really powerful vehicle to engage a PDA child. So it used to be that we would take a child, or if a child was keen on, I don't know, like the picture cats or dinosaurs or I don't know, a particular colour, we would try and pull them away from that to teach what we wanted to teach, to follow our agenda. But now what we're doing is actually saying, well, no, let's lean into that. If it's basic counting, why not count cats or dinosaurs? If we are looking at colours, why not have different coloured dinosaurs or different coloured cats? Because that will engage the child. So lean into these special interests rather than trying to pull away from them. And that can be really powerful to a child with PDA. The PDA Society have kind of put this all into a helpful acronym, which is called PANDA, and that stands for picking battles. So, minimizing rules where we can. And we all know that a certain number of rules are necessary to keep everybody safe, but really think about how much we need each rule. Enable some choice and control. Explain reasons to a child. If the child is able to understand that reasoning, then it can be very powerful for them to understand the why and to accept that some things just can't be done. Adaptation is your A, your first, no, it's your last A. Your second A is your anxiety management, which is really important. So low arousal, low demand, reduce uncertainty about things. Now, this is where things like visual timetables can come in, making sure you've got a clear routine, recognizing some sort of underlying anxiety, recognizing if there's any sensory challenges, social challenges, thinking ahead, all of these things that we've talked about in previous webinars about managing children who have autism. Treat distress behaviors as a panic attack. Treat these distress behaviors as somebody, a little person who hasn't got control and doesn't know how to regain it. You need to support them through it rather than trying to discipline them out of it. And that's really key. Negotiation. Keep calm as much as you can and proactively collaborate and negotiate to solve these challenges. You've got to be fair and you've got to keep trust with the child where you can. Disguise demands, manage them. So all about that declarative language again, phrasing things indirectly, doing things together. And then adaptation. Humour is powerful with children with PDA, as is role play and novelty factor. Be flexible, have your plan B. So if they won't put their shoes on, what will I do then? Because if you've got a plan B, you will remain calm and try and balance out the amount of give and take. So this is all available on the PDA Society website. As usual, some of the basics still stand. Communicate with the parents and caregivers. So what works in setting and what doesn't, and what works at home and what doesn't, because there may be things that you can teach each other. Seek advice and support where necessary. So reach out to, whoever you need in your local area who can help you, or to places like the PDA Society, National Autism Society. Gather evidence. And again, this is something else we've spoken about. Although you may not be part of the diagnostic picture now, paediatricians like to see that autism has been pervasive. So it has been for a very long time through that child's development and in different environments. If you've put together your observations and fed these back to the parents, It may be that the child isn't diagnosed till 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But if we can track that back to their early years time, that's very, very powerful. And there will be some very grateful parents and very grateful pediatricians because we've got a clear picture of this child right back to their early years. Watch and learn. So spend time observing the child, look at their triggers, also look at what helps them. I think we often concentrate on, what triggers them, what are the bad bits, what are the things that really help, who are those adults and peers with whom interactions are particularly successful, and who are the ones where they're slightly more difficult. So further sources of support then, as I said, is the PDA Society. So this is a really, really useful website to go to. So it's pdasociety.org.uk. They have got lots of parent information, lots of research for professionals, as well as support and training. So they are well worth having a look at. The National Autistic Society. So this is just their homepage, but there is a very useful section on PDA. And I think as well, you need to look at PDA within the fabric of autism. I think you need to upskill on both of them if you have a child who has autism with a PDA profile. So this is a really excellent UK-based website to have a look at. Another one here is pdaparents.com. So this is an American website, but actually a lot of this stands because PDA is PDA, and whether you're here or whether you're across in America. So although there will be some specific things in terms of like the education system and the healthcare system, actually a lot of the strategies and the resources are, very, very, common to all. So I think that's well worth having a look at. The other one that I spoke about last week is this great book on Amazon called PDA in the Family: Life After the Light Bulb Moment, which I have just read because as a family, we've also had our own light bulb moment and realized that there's PDA in our house too. And this was a really, really helpful book. And the lady who wrote this book, Steph Curtis, her eldest daughter is neurotypical, but her youngest daughter is autistic with PDA profile. And actually it just talks about their journey from very, very little into sort of teenage years. And it's really an easy read. I don't know about you, but I've only got time and brain space for easy reads. So actually this is great. And she has a website called stephs2girls.co.uk, which has got heaps of resources. And she has a Facebook page as well. So if you want a kind of easy read book, that's your one to go for. Okay, so go and have a look there. So that's been your whistle stop tour into PDA. I hope that's useful. Coming up next month, so right in the middle of the summer holidays, but hopefully you'll all turn up anyway, is a webinar on information carrying words. So what are they and why do they matter? So if you have a child with a speech and language report, it is very likely that the report will talk about information carrying words. And I just want to go over those and let you all know what it means, why it's important, and what you can do to bump them up if there is a delay in that. So please do join us on Wednesday the 6th or Tuesday the 12th of August. Both webinars are 7 till 8 now, and see what you can learn for that.